And here we are once again, but this time episode 90. Welcome to the Rugby Rant podcast show for what you now know as Around the Pitch. And so, gentlemen, once again, it is important to be able to highlight what's going on in rugby in our quick fire round. We're going to swing it around the screen so fans at home know what they need to pay attention to when it comes to rugby from across the nations. Let's hand it over to Scott Ferrara to tell us what's up.
Well, let's get hot, baby. So the first one I'm going to go with is our boy, Kevon Williams. Unfortunately, probably rugby blooper of the year so far. Let's be honest. Is it really a blooper if it doesn't affect the score? You know, if it doesn't affect the tide turning. So let me set it up for you. USA Sevens is up 33-7 against Canada. And times, we're at the death, game over. Nothing's going to happen. Kevon, the ball's inside the 22, but outside their 5-meter line. So he picks the ball up from the breakdown. He turns around to kick it out through the try zone. And he must have been playing the crossbar challenge or something because he nicks the post. It goes wide. It spins like a helicopter and just drops dead. And all the USA players, all the Eagles were looking at it like, did that just happen? And a couple of Canada players came up and chased it and scored the try to end the match. And so the final ended up being 33-12. But as Kevon said, he might have had the biggest USA rugby blooper of all time, most embarrassing moment. Right. And then you had our buddy down Stanford go, but did you wear fingerless gloves when playing 9 and 10 on the USA Eagles? Because that was more embarrassing.
that is, if you had to ask somebody to be able to do that twice in a row, it wouldn't happen again, right? So it's one of those certainly fluke moments. And if there's a highlight, there's your low light. But it's something that at least shows that he has a good sense of humor to be able to talk about it in such a way and a bit of fun. Scott, what do you got for us? Sorry, Rob. What am I doing? I'm like, Scott just went. It's been a long day, apparently.
It's all right. So we've been on this roll and talking about the idea of MLR caps, and it's something that we'll talk about in upcoming rants. So stay tuned for that. We'll discuss whether or not that should be reserved for international honors or also professional team honors. But I think we have to acknowledge that the accomplishment, and I want to acknowledge the accomplishment of a guy that's been near and dear to my heart for many seasons, although he's turned in his gold jumper for a red, white, and blue one, but I still love him. Holden Youngert, he has become one of the 2 youngest players to reach 50 MLR appearances. He, of course, done it for the Free Jacks, mainly done most of those with the NOLA Gold. So it was great to see him and his lovely girlfriend on the pitch being honored, posting a picture now for everybody to see. But you can see he's got one of those 50 caps. I guess only 50 players are going to be getting one of those 50 cap honors. So it's great to see. Congratulations to my man, Holden Youngert. Love you, even though you're in a different color.
Is that true? That is, so if you're number 51, you don't get a hat? Sorry.
That's right. Sorry, Nick. You're out.
Sorry, you're at the back of the line. But while we're talking about this topic, it is a milestone that is being recognized in Major League Rugby because, of course, it's the highest level of the game, domestically at least. And we have one more name to be able to add to that MLR cap list. And as it continues to grow week after week, we bring in the 6th player to ever receive this honor with Nick Boyers. Now, this is somebody I feel particularly connected to because of his time at the Colorado Raptors, who of course bowed out of MLR back in 2020, but before then managed to rack up a few numbers, not only with the Raptors, but before that with the San Diego Legion, and now more recently taking up the colors of the Sabercats, where he is finally achieved that 50 appearances and has deserved every single one of them. What an integral part he's become of that resurgence down in Houston. So we wish him well for the next 50, of course, and likewise for Holden Youngert. Scott,
okay, well, timeouts, Ty. I got to say something. I just discovered this.
Yeah.
in an absolutely, can this be any more coincidental than what I'm about to tell you? These two gentlemen on the same day reached 50 caps, 50 appearances to the MLR. They have the same exact birthday.
Get the hell out of here.
I'm not kidding you. I triple checked it. July 17th, 1993. They both turned 28 here and are both 28 on the same day. They have the same birthday, reaching that 50 cap milestone in the MLR.
What are the chances? X-Files.
Seriously, that's crazy.
See, we're chock full of information, folks. Stay tuned. Stay with us. The Rugby Rant is your connection for
you never cease to amaze me.
Everything that means absolutely. Excuse me.
There's a little bit of extra editing. Thanks to Rob Hammerschmidt.
It was me this time, not Scott.
Scott, it's over to you, man.
Well, so I was kind of torn between what to do now, because if you did watch USA Sevens, there are 3 pool games. The first 2 ended weird. So I'm going to talk about we talked about the second game against Canada. We'll talk about game 1 and game 3. So real quick, against Kenya, a pass was intercepted. Kevon Williams threw a pass. It was intercepted by Kenya, who took it all the way down for a try underneath the post. All they had to do was kick the conversion to tie it. Kenya kicked under the bar. So that was win number 1 for USA. Then we
That's
go
a prop
to
move right there.
Yeah. Then we go to Kevon kicking it and hitting off the bar, right? And then even though it doesn't change the course of match 2, USA still wins. Okay. And now we're going to talk about match 3, which is against the Blitzboks, who are on a 36 match win streak, second longest win streak, I believe, in HSBC 7's history. It came down to the death. It was tied. You had DeMonte Noble making his first appearance for the USA Eagles, first minutes. Comes as a hard charger, breaks 2 tackles. Right. The third tackle as he's going down,
stands, South Africa gives
this amazing offload to Perry Baker, who runs it and scores a try to win the game and knocks off the Blitzboks win streak at 36. And the only thing I'll have to say about that is congratulations to Monte. But man, those photographers did you dirty. Rob's going to show you the picture right here.
Yeah, with DeMonte Noble getting his debut and making an interesting impact in the game there, let's swing it over to Rob Hammerschmidt for his second news piece.
All right, for my second news piece, I just happened to be catching, I was watching or preparing to watch one of the matches this weekend on TRN, and I happened to catch, if you folks haven't done so, tune into TRN, I happened to catch, there was going to be on Wednesday night it happened 2 nights ago as of the actual publication of this rant in episode 90, Where Eagles Dream. It's going to be a documentary about the USA Eagles in their run-up to their play against the All Blacks here this last fall in Washington, D.C. Again, the premiere just happened on Wednesday, April 13th. We're not quite sure if this is going to be a series, but it's certainly a great spotlight on the Eagles. And folks, watch it. Run up the watches, or run up so that they can get as much publication as they can. Right. Support the boys. If you're a fan of rugby in the United States, support the boys, and then support the women here in Rugby World Cup.
Right, and it's true what you say. It's a valid. It's a welcome contribution. As little as you can do for rugby, we're just asking you to turn on your TV and watch it, because the minutes are counted, the amount of views and the interactions, and all of this supports the notion that when they take it to higher platforms, larger broadcast partners, and they go, it received X amount of views on its last broadcast, imagine what it could do with an audience size that you have access to. So this is really good stuff to be able to help rugby grow. It may not seem like it, but there's a lot of analytics that are driving what they support and what they show on bigger broadcast networks, which is why the MLR has successfully grown it year after year, as their viewership of the MLR final has continued to grow and grow as it does in between as well. So yeah, all we're asking you to do your part is to watch a documentary, and it does help as it does continue to help all over.
Just real quick, and the great thing is that a lot of the faces that you're going to see celebrated there, guys like Cam Dolan, Will Maggie, Nick Savetta, you go down the line, Bobby Dice. All right. All those guys we've interviewed before. So when you get a chance to see the run, pass, or kick and then see them there plying their trade, it's always a good combination to get two sides of one coin.
Right, absolutely. Thank you for adding that. And we're going to stay on the international platform here for a moment, but we're going to send our attention abroad, across the pond, so to speak. And we're going to focus, and as you know, it's always a popular topic here on the Rugby Rant, thanks to my co-hosts and myself. We like to be able to believe that we're trying to be able to make sure that everybody recognizes how amazing women's rugby has become over the last few years. There's incredible strides forward that have been made, not only across in the UK, but a professional league, domestic league being introduced in Super Rugby, and the list goes on. One of those great and notable achievements, one of the big milestones as they break boundaries, happened this past weekend in the TikTok Women's Six Nations, England versus Wales. The scoreline wasn't flattering, but what was the rugby on field was still great, but the crowd, the energy, and the fan engagement surpassed anything that had been seen in the past. In fact, so much so that they set an attendance record of 14,689 people came through the gates to watch that matchup in that Six Nations TikTok encounter at King's Home Stadium, now dubbed by fans as Queen's Home, as they certainly have earned the right to be able to call so, with an amazing matchup. Abby Ward being recognized as the player of the match. Unfortunately, the other Abby Dow, walks away. Well, I shouldn't phrase it like that, but comes away with a broken leg. Then that is always terrible to see. But from the early reports, she's doing well. Surgery is planned, and the full recovery is expected, although it will rule her out for the later engagements at the World Cup later this year. But this is a team, and I don't know if anybody's really been following it, but arguably so. I'm going to throw it out there. The England Red Roses may have, in fact, the greatest rugby record of all time. 21 matches without a single loss. The only two teams to come close to that is the New Zealand All Blacks and South Africa, who are tied, I think, at either 17 or 18. So arguably so, they hold one of the greatest rugby records on record.
Yeah.
So once again, it has been an opportunity to share with you what we think is newsworthy and noteworthy from across rugby, wherever it may be played. So before we jump forward again, I remind you that you can tell us what you think is important. If you find something out there that you think the team here on the Rugby Rant would be interested in, make sure you tag us under the handle at Rugby Rant Pod. Myself and the gang will certainly be able to highlight it in another format like this on an upcoming episode, which you can find here on TRN or on our social media under the same handle at Rugby Rant Pod. But what we do is not done with the help of some good partners. So why don't I hand it over to them, as we'll be back in a few short moments.
With over 37 years of experience, American Rugby Outfitters have been dedicated to providing quality rugby gear to those who like to get dirty. The ARO team prides itself in delivering the highest quality rugby gear that will withstand the punishment rugby dishes out. Brands such as Adidas, Barbarian, Gilbert, Canterbury, and ProTech will deliver when the game gets tough. Whether you need team uniforms, boots, bags, field equipment, or swag for the Postmaster Social, ARO is your source for quality rugby gear. They can set up your club or business with a team store like they did for us to ensure every member looks as good as the pros. If the international game is your vibe, ARO will carry you across the line with officially licensed gear from the Eagles, Springboks, All Blacks, England, Ireland, and Wales, amongst others. Visit rugbygear.com and check out all that the folks from American Rugby Outfitters have to offer. Use the code RANT15 to get a 15% discount site-wide. As an added bonus, when the items in your cart are $100 or more, you get free shipping to anywhere in the continental United States. Don't forget to check out our line of Rugby Rant gear available exclusively at rugbygear.com. Don't forget to use RANT15 to get 15% off your order site-wide. American Rugby Outfitters, dedicated to the toughest demands in the world's toughest game.
And here we are, rugby fans, of course, for the familiar rugby debate part of the show. And in episode 90, we have brought in somebody truly special to be able to tackle these boys here. And I'm certain that she is going to give them a run for their money. So more importantly, let's go ahead and introduce our guest ranter as we welcome Ashlee Byrge from the Utah organization. Now, just a quick couple of points so that fans know who we have here as our rugby royalty taking on our challengers here of Scott and Rob. So Ashlee, you are more recently a familiar face to MLR fans on the sideline and also taking up the microphone in the commentators booth alongside your counterparts at the Utah Warriors. But your resume goes a little farther back than that. You're also, of course, majorly into development rugby as the junior Warriors manager currently. You have a background in USA 15s and 7s. So certainly, I don't think anybody here is going to believe that these gentlemen have a chance at being able to beat you when it comes to rugby. But what we do is we think we know a little bit about it. So we're going to make sure that these guys have an opportunity to take you on. But more importantly, Ashlee, welcome to the Rugby Rant pod.
Thank you very much. That was quite a special introduction. You're like making me feel like I've got some shoes to fill, but I'm excited to be here.
Just a cape. You just have a cape.
Probably out of all of our ranters, she's probably the most has the best resume out of a ranter we've ever had, I think.
Wow, I hope you didn't make anybody mad saying that, but
I know. I was just about to think that. Like every other person now tuning in who's been here be like, really, Scott?
But let's be honest. We're having my buddy
piss
Mikey
off Cullen and Fee. I will say that.
Yeah, Fee is, but he's a friend of ours, so that's why he's on the show.
It was nepotism the whole way. It was just because you knew Rob.
I earned my way.
So, Ashlee, we want to make sure that not only you, but those viewers at home are very clear on how it works. So let me take a moment to be able to remind our viewers, if you are tuning in for the first time, this is the familiar Rugby Rant. What made our show famous is we offer an opportunity for each one of these people on screen to rant about the topic at hand. And what have we chosen this week? Well, like we do each and every week on our social media platforms, including the MLR Fan Zone, many of you have been discussing the merit behind being awarded a MLR cap. Some people have said that this should be reserved for international status only. Achieving the highest honors, receiving the cap is recognition for representing your country. And while traditionally that may have certainly been the case, and one of the great rugby traditions that I'm sure many of my colleagues might argue in this coming rant, a lot of people have also said, well, this is an important milestone that should be celebrated in American rugby, which is certainly very much echoing the same sentiments from across the globe, but is in a unique landscape and it deserves some unique traditions in its own right. So without further ado, each one of them will be given a small window to be able to rant the topic at hand, either for or against, and they'll tell us why. We're going to start with Ashlee.
Yeah, this was actually a tough one initially. When I first read the question, I kind of went back and forth, but I'm sticking with my guts and I'm saying, yes, I think this is something that we should do in the MLR. Reason being is that we want something different. We're in America. This is a country that does not know rugby. And what they are thriving off of is the traditions, the difference that it brings. They've never heard of caps. They've never heard of socials. They've never heard of a lot of these things that rugby brings. So while I think an international cap is a really incredible honor and something that, like I've earned myself. I know what that feels like. That was a really special moment to me, but it's given to me in rugby. And this is, still that. So, it's a completely different league. We're not the NBA. We're not the NFL. Nobody has any idea what we're doing. And in my mind, the way that we're going to grow this sport in America is by showing all the special things that, rugby is and rugby does and the traditions. Like, if you talk to anybody about rugby, one of the first words that's going to come out of their mouth about what makes this sport special is the traditions, is the respect, is the family. Honoring your first cap, honoring your 50th cap, honoring your 100th cap. Like, we're not overdoing it. That's three things really, But so yeah, I think, yes, I think it is part of rugby. I think it needs to stay a part of rugby. And it's not this, I don't think in a club game I would honor a cap, but this is a professional league. So that's my take.
I like it. Mic drop from Ashlee. What a great opening rant, and so clear and concise. But let's rewind. I like it. I like it.
Or
Exactly.
cap drop, as they might say, because
Yeah,
she's
there you
actually
go.
earned them.
So let's rewind a little bit and just revisit some of those really great points that you brought up, Ashlee. First off, yes, you do have the opportunity to be able to say, I know what it feels like to receive that cap, which traditionally has been reserved for the highest honors, which is your international performance representing your country in rugby. However, domestic rugby has not achieved the opportunity to be played so often like it has in Major League Rugby. So we have to celebrate those that are given great service, and this is one of the ways to do so. But again, you brought in the fact that most people don't know what rugby is right now, but what they do know and what they do come to love is the traditions that rugby has brought into the sport. And is it any wonder why that still wants to be a part of American rugby, even though it's in that unique landscape and it's uniquely different? It's an American version of the game. Sure, some purists overseas might argue, well, is that really how it's supposed to be used? Well, guess what? We don't care. You're not here. This is our sport here. And to grow it, we have to be able to allow the sport to evolve naturally. And this is a part of that. So I love those points that you brought forth. Ashlee hitting the ground running and certainly putting some points on the board nice and early. Let's hand it over to Scott Ferrari to see if he can make some back himself.
We're staying hot. Here's the thing. I'm ambivalent towards it. Whatever we want to call it, we're going to call it. But my point is, everybody keeps screaming, it's test matches, it's international test matches. If you actually research it, in the UK, the county teams were giving caps in the 1900s. So don't say, it's only reserved for international test matches. And I think, I believe, this came up because Paul Emmerich put a post questioning it. And I believe Paul, when he debuted for the Barbarians, played a professional team. So he didn't technically get a cap because they didn't play an international team, which I find kind of stupid. If you're playing for the Babas, you're playing for the Babas. You should get a fucking cap. But to me, I'm ambivalent on the MLR side. Listen, it's an achievement. I know Rooney in the first 2 seasons were giving caps for players for their first award. Dylan Fawcett capped for the Eagles. Did he not? Do you think he took the 50 cap that he got from the commissioner and stamped on it on the ground, said, I'm not going to accept it because I'm a capped Eagle and you only get capped for nationals? No, he took it. It's an honor. And I just don't understand some vitriol that we get. It seems to me when I was looking in Paul's comments, a lot of people who aren't American rugby fans, a lot of transplants, and, we get the same thing with the silence with the kicker. Shout out to my buddy, Mikey Rodriguez, who yells shank at every New York home match when the away kicker's going. I think he's something like 12 for 20 or something, screaming, shaking, it's working. So, but my point is, we can build whatever culture we want here. The fact that people want to jump on it is just ridiculous to me. And if this is if we're going to call these caps, then call them caps. Who gives a shit?
Right. And I want to go back to something that you said a moment ago. You touched on it with the whole conversation that we've had in several different versions on this show, on social media, and people will still continue to do it. If you want to be able to start a war in any rugby platform, you just talk about silence when the kicker has to kick, right? And then there will be a difference of opinion from everybody from all sides of rugby. Southern Hemisphere versus Northern Hemisphere, New World Rugby versus the old traditions. And that's kind of what's happening here on a smaller scale. But just to your same point, as you pointed out a moment ago, Scott, uniquely, rugby is going to find its own pathway here. We need to kind of make sure that it does find its own path. If we have to kind of make sure that we engineer some of these things, fine, so be it. But it's still rugby and it's growing. So really, is this what we should be moaning about? Right? Aren't there bigger things to discuss when it comes to rugby? So I like you kind of trivializing it. It's the same thing as that. So yeah, you know what? Is it really a problem? Is the question that I kind of took away from there. Let's hand it over to Rob Hammerschmidt to see what he thinks.
Yeah, again, I'd like to thank Paul Emmerich, the Cactus, for making this a prickly question out there in social media land. But nevertheless, in short, yeah, I would actually like to see caps reserved for international honors. And even, why not if USA were to play the Barbarians for something like that as well. But that's not to say I don't think that we can take and adopt some of those traditions and bring them to the United States. After all, I agree with Ashlee in the sense that we can adopt rugby and make it separate and unique from all the other sports that are played in the United States. And one of the ways to do that is to recognize appearances. I guess I would say this. I like the idea that in the early stages of the league to make this something special and recognize achievements for longevity here early on, giving a 50 cap honor for guys that have played that long in the league. That's great. I wouldn't mind seeing, though, something like this. The teams do it, and NOLA kind of does a little bit of this. Like for your first, appearance, you get a team tie, right? So, at the Blaze, the team I played for, they have a tradition now where you wear your number ones after a club game, right? And guys have a club tie, guys have a club jacket. Some guys like to wear a tartan, down there. But nevertheless, give a club tie. So now they have something to wear, to that social. And then NOLA actually gives a black jacket at 10 appearances. And then it would be cool for them, like, okay, at 25, you get, a gray jacket, or, you get some other kind of something else. And then at perhaps 50 for your club appearance, you get like cufflinks, right? So now you're kind of making your number ones more ornate and adding on to that, much like a soldier does when they, achieve things through the ranks. And then finally, maybe a watch for 75. You get a watch recognizing 75 appearances, whether it be for the MLR or for your team. I think that would be a cool tradition that would make everything special, but reserve caps for the highest of honors.
Right. So first of all, Rob, I want to be able to thank you for bringing in a counter argument to the same point, right? And this is what this show is about, is to be able to hear different sides of the coin, different opinions. That's what sparks the conversation. And I do like the way that you identified, and this is very common at club rugby around the world, and traditions are different by region, but a lot of them will follow a very similar theme, that you get something for this, and then you get something at that milestone, and so you build up to eventually, hopefully, if you have that opportunity to represent your nation, that is the highest honor. That is still reserved for that there. But along the way, you will be able to recognize those achievements in other ways. So it's kind of like, your badge of honor, whether you have the jacket or whether you have the tie and you've done your service and you got that experience. The old boys will still wear them to the clubs, right? Because they're recognized for what they've achieved. And so when they walk into the club, they've got that respect. They did their time. They did their service. And that to a certain degree, a lot of people have asked the question, does it diminish the value of the cap to be able to extend it to MLR as well? And on that note, I'm going to actually swing it over to Ashlee to hear her thought, who has actually achieved it at the highest honor for the USA Eagles.
Yeah, it's tough to say, but when I think about what Rob was saying, I'm like, well, if it's not fixed or if it's not broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean? And so in my mind, I'm like, does it diminish the honor of the cap? Well, your cap doesn't say USA when you earned one for the Warriors. You know what I mean? It's a separate, thing. If you're still celebrating your first time getting on the field with the tie, why not just call it a cap? Like you're still celebrating the same milestones. So you're just changing the way that you're celebrating, but you're essentially doing the exact same thing. But,
Sure.
So in my mind, I'm like, well, a Warriors cap is going to be hanging in a different part of my closet as my USA cap. It's still the same honor. It's still the same thing. You're just changing what you're calling it. And so
in a similar manner, there are some players internationally who've been fortunate enough to represent more than one nation, and they receive caps for both. But so they can be different, but the concept itself is just to be able to recognize the achievement, right? To honor it as well. Scott, it looked like you wanted to jump in on that point there to build.
Yeah, I just don't understand. Sometimes I think the old boys are the people who are in the way of, bringing, Americanizing rugby to the way that it's going to entice people. So that way, exactly, you got to bring in those crossover fans we talk about all the time, right? And I think giving somebody a cap and bringing a new fan in and saying, hey, we're acknowledging this person either for their first start with the team, their first start in the MLR, their 50th start, their 50th appearance. I don't understand why everybody's so freaked out about it. The friggin' cap. Out of all the shit you can complain about, we should be complaining about the stupid scrum rule and you got all these people bitching about caps.
Well, the
I'm just
people
saying, it doesn't make
driving
sense.
this argument are those rugby purists, and they argue that they're the core audience, but that's not who
They're
your
not the
target
core
audience
audience.
is.
They're not.
We're never going to grow rugby if we're targeting the old guard of rugby, right?
Absolutely. And we talk about this all the time when we talk about the silence for the kicker rule, because that's not how it is in Southern Hemisphere rugby.
Nope.
But everybody who's an Irish and English and Scotland and Wales fan will tell you that we're wrong when we know
they play the purest form of rugby.
Yeah, and it's crap, because we know that's not, when you go down, we and Rob talk about it all the time. You go to a Chiefs Blues match, they're hollering the entire time through both kicks.
Well, and it's because they think that they are, know all. They're the first people in this country that really were into rugby. So they're ahead of the game. They're ahead of everybody. And that's why I feel like they want an opinion. They have to have an opinion. Do they really care? I don't know. But my take on it is that sometimes you just want to speak. And if you're the one that's been playing rugby for, 60 years here, when it first started in this country, like, they're just yapping to yap sometimes.
Yeah, talking to be heard. That's it, right? So I want to actually go back to, sorry, I'm Rob. I don't want to cut you off. I can see you wanted to jump in, so take the floor.
Thank you. So, in answer to your question, I don't think it diminishes the international cap. They're clearly different. I just like the idea of having something to build up to. So again, you get a tie, you get, a cufflinks, you get a jacket, then maybe for that 50th appearance for your team, you get the cap. So it's kind of, again, you in a watch, you mark time as you build up your appearances there, and you give the younger guys something to look over and go, yeah, I want to do that. I want one of those. I'm going to keep busting my ass.
That's what that 50 cap represents.
Right. No, I get it. And I don't have a problem with the MLR's 50 cap. I like the idea. I'm just saying, in terms of, I think it'd be cool to do something, just a different take on this tradition, in a unique way.
So do you think that should be like an MLR wide, this is what you do, or is it going to differ between each team? Because then does that diminish the tradition of it?
And I don't know that I would go that far. I don't know that I would like to see something like that standardized. I'm just saying, like, look, if I were in charge of a team, right? If somebody asked me, hey, you're in charge of the team, we want you to set this up, how do you think we should do this in terms of appearances? I would do something different, but molded in the same way to honor the players and their accomplishments.
I'm going to Ashlee. I get a cap. If your team, I only get a tie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The truth though, if it's not standardized, you're going to have a team like LA, Austin, who have more money, and their caps are going to be celebrated better than other teams.
With LA, you get a car.
But it's true though. So if it's not standardized, then does it take away some of the pride in it, because you get something different one place somewhere else? Whereas a cap now is,
and I would say no, only because every, just like clubs, every team has their own traditions that they have, and whether you go from one club to the next, you appreciate those traditions. Again, there's a guy who passed away a couple of years ago at the Blaze, and he always, to every social, he wore his number ones, but he also wore a kilt, right? And when he passed, everybody, on the team got a kilt to wear to his funeral. And now that's kind of a tradition that's developed, as guys are wearing kilts to our socials with their number ones. You go to the Lions or you go to the Griffins, they don't have that, but that's what makes that something unique to that club. I think that they can take pride in.
Well, I think it's more akin to, like, you have the Rugby Nas who's on Facebook and yells at the guy because he says rules instead of law. Who gives a shit? Is he watching rugby? Is he adding to the statistic of buying a ticket to go watch an MLR match and watching it on TV and watching the Eagles,
let's look at the biggest
men's and women's? Yeah. And don't worry about he said rules, because the guy's been playing football his entire fucking life. That's my point. Why is this an issue? It's stupid. It shouldn't be an issue.
And I want to hold just for a moment on that thought, and I'm going to throw something back at you in a moment, Scott. So some of the conversation online was, well, to some people, they thought the solution was as simple as saying you get appearances for any domestic match and international caps, and that was the black and white scenario. So some would say, and again, I just may be able to share what's out there, and I put it out there for conversation. Why not refer to it as appearances for two reasons? One, it separates itself from being a cap. And then the second reason, it's more closely linked to what people are familiar with in the sporting landscape in America.
because I feel it doesn't make a difference what you call it. That's my point. It's if you want to call it appearances, call it appearances. If they're still Rooney, if you call it appearances or caps, Rooney was still giving every player who got their first appearance in 2019 a cap. So what the frig was the difference at that point?
Well, and that's right. It doesn't change anything. You're celebrating it the same. So if changing
right,
the
arose by
verbiage
any
of it
other
makes
name,
you
right?
change your mind, you're doing the same thing. You're celebrating the same thing.
How about we fix officials completely screwing up scrum law and the way scrums work because they don't know what they're doing? Let's talk about something serious. Let's talk about the fact that even with HIA, we still have a tremendous amount of head injuries because guys aren't tackling properly. And we see a red card almost every weekend now in large matches throughout professional rugby and test matches because guys aren't tackling properly still. How about we talk about those things? How about we talk about MLR?
And with that being said, we're out of time here today on the Rugby Rant.
But that's the important stuff. But you got guys bitching about caps. That's all I'm saying.
No, you are right. And putting it in perspective against subjects like that probably don't get enough conversation when they arguably should be more of the conversation than anything else, especially when it comes to safety. But the general rugby fan is not the one who's talking about this. It's the rugby hardened fan who thinks that he's deserved the right to know more and be better than the average fan. And that's the problem with this conversation in the first place. I
got one more point to make.
He's not done yet, folks.
Go to Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Rugby Rant Pod.
For the rest of his rant.
No, for Marquise Goodwin's RPK, for the reason why he chose me as his favorite ranter over the Hammer. This is one of the reasons because I'm passionate and I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and
so apparently I'm not passionate. Okay.
No, you're not.
Oh, okay.
And apparently I don't know what I'm talking about.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah.
This was a dig at Rob. This was a dig directly at Rob because Marquise. The question was who's a better ranter, the big guy or the Hammer, and he went with the big guy.
Yeah, well, he's just one person's opinion. While I respect Marquise, we'll just have this debate throughout the season.
Then that's right. And it's a long season ahead still for us and the MLR. Well, I should say we're past the halfway mark. It'll be exciting. And I want to be able to remind viewers as they continue to be able to enjoy this episode, you can get even more like this by following us on patreon.com/Rugby Rant Pod, where you can also see us for the additional rant where Ashlee and, of course, Rob and Scott will be debating the next point, which is to talk about the merits of the 50-20-22 rule. What the hell? I mean, the 50-22 rule brought in 2022. Gosh, that's a mouthful. Great job, Ty.
April Fools, we're going to put 2 balls in play.
Yeah. But nevertheless, I digress. You can catch us on patreon.com for the following rant. But right now, we're going to take a break as we will hear from one of our sponsors and be back to be able to share a few more notes from our RPK guest in the next interview piece. So stick around. You'll have an opportunity to hear from our guest of honor, be Michael Duval from the AGs.
Hey, everybody, it's the big guy. I'm here to talk to you about our partner, Aversio Wellness. Aversio means change. Their mission is to change lives through fungi. Functional mushrooms are having a moment in 2022 because they offer 2 things that we all need most right now. The first thing is long-term stress support. The second thing is long-term immune support. Right now, many athletes have a secret weapon. They're powered by mushrooms. Warrior can be taken daily to help your body utilize more oxygen efficiently by improving lung capacity and enhancing blood flow. The big guy takes it, the Hammer takes it, and Ty the Safa Braga take it. Cordyceps mushroom extract is the ideal addition to your routine if you're looking to optimize energy and endurance. So do us a favor, go to AversioWellness.com and get 15% off your entire order by using the code RANT15. And that way, when you order your Balance or your Chill or your Awaken, your Defend, or your Warrior products, you can get 15% off. Help us, help you. Go to AversioWellness.com, use the code RANT15, get your 15% off. Tell them the big guy sent you.
And welcome, rugby fans, to the familiar format of our Run, Pass, or Kick interviews. And a quick reminder, Of course, we have the important team here, but for those of you who are not familiar, of course, by my side, we've got Rob Hammerschmidt, who's going to be, quote unquote, the quiz master for today, as he's put together some amazing questions for our man in the hot seat. We introduce Micahel Duval. Of course, you know him as an MLR staple, but more importantly, a wonderful player for the AGs. So let's welcome him to the show. Micahel, welcome aboard.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys having me. I look forward to the show.
Yeah, and it's been quite some time. We've had a few AGs players on the show, and you're the next one up. So you've got many, many greats to be able to build upon, and it's all coming to you. The title, all their reputation rests on your shoulders today. No pressure, my friend.
No pressure. I'll try my best.
And for those of you who are not familiar with how the run, pass, or kick interviews work, it's best I hand you over to my colleague, Rob Hammerschmidt.
Thank you, Ty. And so for those that have never seen a run, pass, or kick interview, it works like this. We're going to pepper Micahel Duval with some questions this evening, and we're going to prompt each of those questions with run, pass, or kick. And just like any good rugby player, especially one as skilled as Micahel, he'll have to be adept at using all three of those skills to handle these questions. And so here's how it works. When we throw them out there, we'll prompt run, pass, or kick. Micahel can tell us, or you, what he's going to do. If he says he's going to run with a question, he's going to answer it straight up. We know he likes to run hard with the ball. We figure he's going to take a few of these, one right up the gut too. Or he can pass on a question, which is to say it's too hot to handle, doesn't want to get himself into trouble with the brass down there in Austin, and so he can just pass it right along. Or he can kick a question, and that's perhaps when Micahel can have the most fun with us, put us on the defensive, put us on the back foot. And basically it means that we're going to answer the question in his stead or in a way that we think he would answer. And so Micahel can direct a kick to either Ty or myself, or he can make us think a little bit. And if he doesn't direct his kick to one or the other, we'll just assume that whoever asked the question is going to answer the question. And so with that, Mr. Duval, are you ready for the run, pass, or kick challenge?
I hope so. Let's see it.
That confidence is amazing. I hope so.
I think it'll be just fine. All right. So as always, I have a little fun with social media on the first question. And Micahel is he's not shy about a social media post, always keeps it classy and proper. But I did notice that there are a few social media posts of you in very elaborate costumes. I think, as a matter of fact, you even get your dog into one of those, which is always fun. So run, pass, or kick. Is it safe to say that Halloween is your favorite day of the year?
I'll run with it. I wouldn't say it's my favorite day of the year, but I think it's a pretty funny day. And with me and my fiance now, we enjoy dressing up, at least make a fun day out of it. Try and get the most random outfit sometimes to actually go with. So, but yeah, I wouldn't say it's my favorite day, but it's definitely one of the, I think, having a partner, you can definitely do some crazy outfits and have fun with it.
Absolutely. And you had a few, and you guys go out. I mean, yeah. We're going to post a picture here. There you go. And look at the elaborateness for which they go to dress up in these costumes. It's awesome fun to see. I really enjoyed looking at those, and I can't wait to see more of those coming out, and fans should be checking out your Insta and your Facebook to catch those wonderful Halloween photographs. It's great to see guys doing their own thing and having fun with their significant others as you have.
Well, I kind of get it though. I tell you, one thing that Micahel and I have in common is the fact that we're both from South Africa. Yeah. For those of you that don't know,
I wouldn't have guessed.
It does not celebrate. Yeah, I've never said that I'm from South Africa before ever on this show. In case you don't know, but South Africans don't celebrate Halloween. So when you get an opportunity, you gotta embrace it, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
I mean, I never celebrated Halloween in South Africa. I don't know if you did. Sure, we knew it existed, but you'd never gotten that experience. And it's great when you come across this side and you kind of embrace the traditions of the new adopted land, right?
No, for sure. I only saw it on the movies, really, and there's certain areas that celebrate in South Africa, or maybe later on. But
Right.
when I was growing up, it's not really a thing. So,
right.
Really,
the only time you ever celebrate is when you were in the bars. Like every bar would celebrate.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, do you really need a reason to be able to get liquored and get dressed up in something weird? I don't.
Yeah, fair enough.
so let's rewind.
Sounds like Michael and his fiance are going to be hosting the next AG's, the first annual AG's Halloween.
Hey, now there's something, right? So
definitely.
again, no pressure. We're just setting up your calendar for you,
Need some outfit ideas though for this time.
All right, we'll be following closely on social media because Rob is a great social media stalker. We got eyes on you, my friend. So let's take us back, right? And I want to be able to highlight some of the great points of your rugby resume. I mean, folks listening and tuning in now should know exactly who we're talking about and what you've achieved. So my job here is to be able to highlight some of that. So let's run through it together. We got, first of all, recognizing you're from South Africa. So much of your rugby history is going to come from there. And that goes back to high school, obviously even before, but we want to start from where high school is. Pretoria Boys High School got a great reputation, great school in rugby in South Africa. It's already bred a lot of great Springboks over the years and will continue to do so in many years to come. That's where you come from. That's good stock. There's great facilities there. It leads you to be having an opportunity to be spotted at an under 18 level, at that high school level, and play for the Blue Bulls Academy. For those of you who aren't aware, that is as high as it comes at that age group, right? I mean, I'm assuming you went through the Craven Weeks and all that stuff as well. But there's a lot of competition. So you decide, though, to be able to take a slight deviation. And instead of continuing along the pathway of to higher honors in South Africa, you're like, I'm out of here. I'm going to go check out the States. Yeah. And you make your way across to Lindenwood University, another prestigious program. You just kind of go from one to another great program. But even there, your success was not only on field, but also off field. I want to be able to make this as an important point here. You were a 3-time all-academic team for LU. Okay, guys, let's put this in context. I think Rob told me he's got like a 4.0 GPA average. I mean, rugby players, when people say that they're not smart, Micahel is. He's the one.
He's the one.
So let's highlight the rugby again. 2-time collegiate All-American, national sevens champs on 3 occasions. The list really goes on. But most importantly, you have been a part of Major League Rugby, or at least with the AGs, since its inception back in 2019. And you're still there. It's doing it again and again and again. And that's why we're happy to be able to have you on board here. And we're going to dive back into some of that past with the next question here, Micahel. So, having spent your formative years growing up in the middle of South Africa, in case folks don't know, very bottom of South Africa, easy to find. So let's go ahead and ask you the important question here. What made you decide to move to the States and continue your career stateside?
So I'll run with that.
You got to run with it. I said it. I spent a lot of time setting it
up. There's a lot of moving pictures to it, but definitely something I always wanted to do. And with rugby and the opportunity that came with Lindenwood, I did apply for a few universities, not expecting really to get in or what's going to happen. And I actually got into Lindenwood, and it just seemed two great opportunity to pass on. There's things that you can only do while you're young. You can see a different country, and you also get a great degree while you playing rugby and enjoying yourself. So it was definitely a big leap just to leave, just to go study somewhere else. But I think it was definitely one of my best decisions I've made. I've really enjoyed my time here. And yeah, I think with everything that just came with it, with the degree and seeing a different part of the world while enjoying yourself.
Walk me through it though. How did you even discover that Linden was an option to you?
Oh, that's actually pretty funny. I've just Googled the top 20 rugby universities in the US. So
Google for the win, right?
And then just read up about all of them. I was like, okay, probably wouldn't go there, and then send an email to, or try to find an email for any of the coaches or whatever, like how to get in or how to apply. And I applied to about 10 universities, and then finally chose Lindenwood just for probably a good academic scholarship and everything on top of that, and also being able to study kind of what I wanted to study. So it worked out perfectly.
Right. And I love the fact that you highlight, and I'm sure Rob was going to jump in and say something very similar, but rugby and a degree, right?
Yeah.
In combination, that's the win, right? That's the most important part there, that you're getting that education, life education, but of course you're academic behind it too. Yeah. Because while we wish that everybody has a phenomenal career that lasts the rest of their life, we all know we get old and you got to have something afterwards, right? So kudos to you, man. I love how you stayed focused. You knew what you wanted to do, and you obviously achieved that and more.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And by the way, his degree wasn't like a slough degree. The guy was an actuarial science, like a mathematics major with actuarial science. So we're talking about, a top-notch major as well. And, again, if you follow Michael, anything that coaches have said about Michael along the way, it's that he's not just physically gifted, and athletically gifted, but he also has a rugby mind too. And that's the foundation for this next question. And I just got to know, because I heard this rumor, don't know, can't tell where I've heard it from, but because I won't divulge any of my sources, of course, but I heard a rumor that while at LU, the boys were committing a lot of penalties at the breakdowns. At one point, Coach Macy was so frustrated that he said, only Duval has the green light to poach the ball at the ruck. So run, pass, or kick. Is there any truth to the story?
I'll run with it. It was actually pretty true the one time he did actually say that. I was pretty shocked, because I think I would also give away quite a few penalties at collegiate level. But yeah, I think Coach Macy having a lot of trust in me was pretty good to see. But it is pretty funny that he actually said that in front of the whole team.
Yeah, he's had a few good ones from my understanding.
Yeah. No, I think
I like it. So let's take the opportunity to keep moving forward. Yeah, go forward, ball, as they say. And we're going to dive into the next run, pass, or kick question. And lining this one up, here we go. I want you to be able to think back. We're still on the topic of your college days here. Yeah. So you and Wesley White, who, by the way, has been on our show once before, in fact, in the early days. I think season 1, wasn't that? Yeah. And that's kind of a background to some of the story as well on this question. And for those of you who don't know, Wesley White is, of course, related to the famous Jake White, South African rugby coach with great honors. But, of course, a phenomenal rugby player in his own right. So let's dive back into the question at hand and direct it your way here, Michael. So you and Wesley White were teammates at Lindenwood University and played in the collegiate All-American side together. Then you and you both signed to Austin and spoke with USA Rugby about the potential for higher honors down the road, right? I'm talking about Eagles appearances and things like that. So clearly there was some good chemistry between you. Let's put that in mind. And was that the plan for a dynamic duo to develop and progress together? Do you imagine that that was the plan back then, to be able to identify players that work well together and groom them to become to the top level together?
That's what I'll probably have to kick back at you. I actually don't have the answer for that. So, but yeah.
Well, okay. So in this case, if you don't have the answer, I'm already getting 10 out of 10.
Definitely a good mate of mine. But yeah, I would love to hear what you guys have to say.
Well, chemistry is, first of all, very important, especially in the combos that we're talking about. The combination of players in a similar age group, similar background, it really talks about chemistry. But the second thing they also talk about is culture. And when you're going to grow up in the same culture together, have a similar sort of coaching format, similar background, similar style, work ethic, you can only see it being a positive. And if you can keep that unit together, as rugby has always had, if I think back to South African rugby, I think of Bucky's Buerta and Victor Matfield as one of those great combos. I think of the inside and outside center combos of New Zealand. I think about these combinations that when you look at the dynasty that these teams create, there's usually a couple of key players that help make that possible. And yes, you would love to be able to keep players together as long as possible. That's the success of Lindenwood, as it has been, Life University and all that. They managed to keep the core together for quite a long time. So I would say in your mind, yeah, you would have loved that. In the coach's mind, who knows?
For sure. I think that's a great answer. Definitely would have loved that too. Obviously, I'm happy for Wes. I think he's doing really well at the moment. So, and love to see him keep getting better.
Yeah, I know. The 1-2 punch that you guys created in the back row was a frustrating opposition for a lot of the teams that you guys played. I know it was, because if you weren't running at him, Wes was running at him, and boy, a formidable opponents, especially on the sevens pitch with two strong players such as yourselves. So moving forward, let's just talk about. Sorry, the bat phone's calling. I think they're looking to talk.
We have a fan coming in on line one. Hi, this is WKPHO.
So let's go to another sport real quick. We hear you're an avid golfer. So this is a two-part question, Michael. Run, pass, or kick. Who is in your ideal foursome? Weekend off, right? No responsibilities to the team that particular weekend. Who is in your ideal foursome? And second part, what course are you playing?
Players, or would you say anyone in the foursome?
You're going to play 18 or 36, and you have three other guys that you can pick to play with. Who is it?
So a few guys that I actually really played a lot with, especially over the COVID times, that I'll definitely have to pick is Waal McGee, Cam Dotson, and Marcelo Torrealba, who is actually back in Chile now. But during that off period in COVID where we were not really sure what's going on with the season, we had like a month off, or was postponed for a month, and we played almost every single day.
That won't happen again.
It's definitely a once in a lifetime experience. We were basically playing like professional golfers every single day. So it was good fun. And then the course I would probably say is Fan Court in George, South Africa. It's probably one of my favorite courses, I would say.
I know exactly the course you're talking about. In the Garden Route. It's one of the most beautiful, in the world in terms of the setting. And I think that's a Gary Player designed golf course too.
Yeah. They have three courses. The links course I haven't actually played, but I would love to play that. I think that's the one I would probably love to play.
Yeah. Me, I'm only interested in the 19th hole. Can't play golf.
Fair enough. That's the best hole to be at.
Right. I always win. It's always a hole in one. I love it. And we're going to keep that good energy going. And I want to remind our viewers tuning in that they can continue to be able to enjoy what we do each and every week by following us under the handle at Rugby Rant Pod, whether it be on our social media, or perhaps you even find us on our new home at patreon.com. For as little as only $3 each month, you're going to get additional interviews from guys just like Michael, who's joining us here for his RPK. But we have many, many more who will do so in the future and have already done so. And don't forget about our favorite for fans or like is, of course, our rugby debate episodes, where we get to do what we do best, to rant about everything and nothing all at the same time. So make sure that you check us out on patreon.com/Rugby Rant Pod. And for as little as only $3, you can help us keep the lights on, keep doing what we're doing. And we appreciate your help all the way through. And those that, of course, deserve a thank you as well will be coming up in just a moment. We'll be back after a few words from some of our sponsors.